Hi everyone this week. I just wanted to talk a little bit about conflict. So in this week, there's a lot of different terms or versions of conflict. You'll read like, man versus man, man versus society, man, all these different variations. But you just need to kind of focus on internal and external. On the discussion board this week, you'll notice that you're going to be looking at which of the stories exemplifies conflict, the external conflict of man versus man more effectively. So you're not going to be like comparing like an internal versus an external, but you're just going to be looking at why this story, like story X, whatever it may be, has the better use of conflict. So I thought what I could do is just remind you or tell you what the difference between internal and external is, just very briefly, and then talk to you about how this will apply to the discussion board. So I think external conflict I'll save to the end since it relates to the discussion board. So if we want to talk about internal conflict for a moment, I think that this play is a great sort of example of internal conflict. So in it, if you don't know the story of Hamlet, he is tasked with killing his uncle by a ghost who is his father. And his father says, "I was murdered by my brother. You need to revenge my death." So that's basically the beginning of the play. And so the rest of the play is Hamlet, hemming and hawing and being very indecisive about how to do it, right? And a lot of this goes back to his internal conflict of, well, I know my dead father told me to do this, but isn't this a bad thing? Also, too, can I trust this ghost? Where's is this ghost, from heaven or hell type thing? So really, it's an internal conflict, and there's a lot of soliloquies where Hamlet is kind of going back and forth on, should I do this or should I not, or like the to be or not to be speech about should I even be living, all these sorts of things. So primarily in this play, I think we can see it's an internal conflict. Whereas something behind me, like the original Star Wars, that seems to be more of an external, right? Us versus them, right? So when we think of external, it's, the character or characters against something or someone, right? Or even society, like in general. And so for your post this week, you're going to be, what I would do is make a sort of topic or thesis statement where you say something to the effect of story X is more effective at utilizing external conflict because of these two reasons. And so maybe one of those reasons is clarity, that you can really see or feel the conflict within that particular story. In both Hamlet and the original Star Wars, I think that you can say that the conflict that the characters experience is very visceral and very clear. Whereas in other stories, maybe it's not so clear. And so if you're comparing two stories that are using the same type of external and internal conflict, and you see one is maybe not as clear as the other, that's a thing to say, well, this author uses conflict better just because they make it more understandable, more relatable, more visceral than the other person, okay? So what I would do is when you're reading these stories is not only identify the types of conflict, right, but also why you think one is more effective than the other, then make those the sort of focus of both of your responses. Okay? So if you have any other questions this week about external or internal conflict or just conflict in general, please feel free to talk to me in the discussion boards or in the Ask Your Instructor area. Later on this week, I'll be making a video about the research paper, which is basically a sort of a combination of week 4 and week 5, but not totally. So I just want to clear things up just in case you're not sure. Okay? All right, I will talk to you later and have a good day, week, whatever you're doing.